The Charter Revision Committee regular meeting to order, and can we have roll call, please?
Sheila Bailey, Town Clerk.
Nikki Price,
Phil German. Mike Ludwig.
Anne Marie Nasuda,
Zach Sinoni.
Laura Anderson,
Rob Anderson.
And Ken Nelson, and for the record, Bob Corsati is unavailable, and Tom Cremona is out sick, so they will not be in attendance tonight. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of February 20th, 2025.
Still moved.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. Any comments, corrections, or concerns? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? It's unanimous. Next is Town Attorney's correspondence. Do we want to start on that without the other members here, or do we want to finish working through the document? Because we've got less than a page to go. And then break into them, because we're also going to have attorneys and other people come in and talk to us. So instead of going back, because they were here for the comments, I think they should be here
Yeah.
for the attorney review. So
Give us a chance to look at it too.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I'll entertain a motion to table town attorney correspondence.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Okay, we have tabled it till the next meeting. Next is unfinished business, chapter 6, section 11, commissioners update on contributions.
Yes, so this was the issue that came up at Chapter 6, Section 11, last time we were meeting about the contributions and the $5,000, anything more than $5,000 should have a membership representative on their board. So I ended up not having to get a town attorney opinion because it was clear from the finance director. So we do have, in your packet, I gave you 2 sheets of paper. The first one is the budget that shows all the contributions that were in last year's budget for these various agencies. And there were, did I do yours in color? Can you see? No, okay, so the Network Against Domestic Abuse, Educational Resources for Children, Enfield People for People, and Enfield Homefront Team. They're new ones. They do not have any council liaisons assigned to their board. The others do, so we are doing it. It is something we are trying to follow. We did miss them. They're newer, and we did not assign any. Pardon?
Which were the 4 again, please?
Oh, sure. It was Network Against Domestic Abuse, Educational Resources for Children, Enfield People for People, and Enfield Homefront Team. So the other sheet that I gave you shows the council liaisons that are on the boards for the others, like Enfield Food Shelf, Allied Attic, Kite, and Loaves and Fishes.
Why is there in next to, oh, it's because
Because it's less than the dollar amount. Yeah, it's less than the 5,000. So I guess that's your answer. So it is in the charter and we are following it. We maybe missed a few. But I believe, I talked to Cheryl from the town manager's office and she is going to bring it up, and I don't know if she did this
They
leadership.
must have watched the meeting because the next day, 3
Cheryl and I
of the
talked
4,
about this.
yeah,
the next
contacted the town asking for liaisons.
Oh, really?
So they must have, or somebody,
must
I
have
mean,
been
maybe
watching.
Zach made a
Okay.
phone call. But, I mean, it's okay,
Well,
and that's what,
good.
right, that's what should happen.
And it could be, I did speak with Cindy Guerrieri the very next morning and she filled me in, so maybe she contacted them, I don't know, but
Mhm.
that's good.
Yeah, so we'll take this up on the council,
Good idea.
and decide
Yeah,
what we
great.
wanna do.
Yeah.
All right, everybody good with that?
Thank you, Sheila.
Well,
Thank you, Sheila. Next is new business discussion and possible action regarding proposed charter revisions. So I believe we left off on chapter 8, section 1. And I just want to say I appreciate everybody letting us get out early last meeting, even though it was a horrible game that we lost. But at least we got to see it, so.
They didn't play starters or something like that? They didn't play everybody?
Somebody got hurt or something, yeah, I don't know. But I was the fights in the beginning is what I wanted to get home and see.
Yeah.
They never happened, so, but thank you. Chapter 8, Section 1, miscellaneous provisions, add one miscellaneous provision and rename transfer of powers to Section 2. Revision, add Section 1A, flag provision.
That one we talked about.
Yeah, we already did that
Yeah.
one.
So we're starting, it's this one, the
The
last page.
profanity one, right?
Yes.
Yes.
One.
Yeah,
So that one we're
One
leaving out
yeah,
on the 5-5 vote.
So are we on the next one?
Yes, we're on the very last page, page 10 of
No, your page and my
miscellaneous.
page is different.
Oh, you know what, because I've been adding notes as well.
one B, Chair.
Yes.
Yes, 1B.
Yes.
So, again, miscellaneous provisions, add section 1B, a provision against the public display of profanity, including signs and posters on town property. Well, that's a violation of your constitutional right, so I'm not in favor of it or even discussing it because that's our constitutional rights, whether we like them or not.
Yeah, it's almost, he replied to his unit, our.
Yeah.
We
Forget
can't
that.
take that into
Right,
consideration.
Okay, well, then, I
Yeah,
agree.
so
It's
is
so interesting.
anybody wanna continue with that dialogue?
No.
Seeing none, okay, that's gone. Miscellaneous provision, add section 1C, which would be B now, or A. Ethics provision, public officers, officials, and employees serve in the public interest and are therefore subject to Town of Enfield's Code of Ethics as approved by the Enfield Town Council. Ethics provision, public officers, officials, and employees serve.
I don't remember where that came from. Was
But we all-
anyone, was it one of you?
I believe you had suggested that, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
We already took care of that in an earlier one.
yeah, I thought that they were, you talked.
Yeah, because we, as a group, decided we did want to include that, but we have to review the language for how that would work in the charter, I believe, and that's what it states.
Oh, okay.
Because we had already said that we wanted to implement that on the 9th of January.
Didn't we talk about the removal of people on town council in that conversation?
Yeah, we talked
That's part,
about.
yes, but that's part of
I
this,
feel
the
like
town
this is
attorney.
broader
Right, that town attorney, but that's
Part
what
of
I
the
thought
attorney's
too.
Yeah.
review as well.
Yes. I mean.
It's like, you're not wrong, Zach, I think this, when I hear public officials, that to me is,
Well, we're already all bound by
Right.
ethics.
Right, and he said that in his opinion too.
yeah.
Correct, he said it's listed elsewhere in the charter,
Right.
I'm looking for it right now, his
Yeah.
comment.
I just have a charter with me to go back and look. Okay, he's. Okay, six.
Oh, you know what he said was already in the ethics ordinance, that's what it is.
Right.
He said that it was the confidentiality of executive session was already addressed in the ethics ordinance, that's what he said. He did not say that the ethics ordinance was referenced in the charter.
Right, he said.
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this is told, this I believe, I don't remember where this came from, I could look back in my notes.
No, doesn't
But,
matter.
but I believe the intent was someone felt that the ethics ordinance should somehow be codified within the charter. Similar to like the flag policy we were talking and then, so
Oh,
I believe that.
Right.
um,
Every member you swear in,
mhm.
all swears to go by code of ethics
Right.
and, I mean, the
They already
250
take the
here
oath to that.
council.
Right.
Right, so, I mean,
I-
you're
I-
swearing to,
Yeah, and I don't know if it was Lou, I remember someone making the comment that that's true, everybody, I mean, the policy ethics ordinance is the ordinance, but they wanted it mentioned or codified in the charter. They felt it should be a line. You don't want to put too much in the charter because then you can't change the ethics ordinance. And personally, I think right now it needs to be revamped. It's on my list to do.
right, but as long as any person that is elected or appointed, they sign and swear to it, whatever the code of ethics is, because you send them the code of ethics too.
Yes.
I mean, regardless of what
sign
the
a
charter
receipt.
says.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I never signed something saying I wouldn't go over 65. but I still get in trouble if I do. So I don't see any need for this. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. All right, that's it. We're at the end. Motion to adjourn. This was nice and
I think these minutes are gonna take me a while, you guys.
I have a couple of things
yep.
that I just found, when I was updating, kind of redlining the charter, getting ready to prepare it for all of you to review it. In the bonds, well, there's a couple things. On page 14 of the charter, if everyone has the charter, if you remember when we were talking about division of the police, it would probably take me longer to find it in my chart instead of just talking about it here. We added at the end where it says with the provisions related to the merit system and as approved by the town manager. Do you remember voting to add that?
Yes.
So it says, no suspension for more than 30 days or removal shall be made except in accordance with the provisions and as approved by the town manager. We added that. Well, the same verbiage is over here under division of EMS, but we did not vote to add that verbiage there. Do you know what I'm saying?
I thought we talked about EMS and it was
We
the
said
same
EMS
for
was
both.
gonna, but we never voted to put that in. So if you're all in a consensus for me to put it in, I just didn't want to do it on my own accord.
Yeah, I
Right,
thought
it
about
should be the
Yeah,
same
yeah.
language for all chiefs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and then, just a little tiny thing under bonds, which is on the next page, page 15. I think we had voted to change that it's filed with the town finance director rather than the town clerk. Right underneath that line, it says, the penal sum to be fixed by the council conditioned upon the honesty and/or faithful performance of such official duties. I don't know why it would be or, as it's honesty and faithful performance of such
Right,
duties. I can't think of
yes.
any situation where that might be an or. So I just thought, those were just two things when I was updating, I went, oh, that's a little strange language. So I didn't know if you wanted to look at that or not.
You're saying take, get rid of or.
Yes.
I'm saying get rid of the or, it should be and.
You're either
Both
honest
of
or
those
you're
things should
faithful.
be,
That's right, you don't need to be both.
Should be.
That's what it's saying, the way it's written.
Yeah, I agree, or
Yeah.
shouldn't do that.
Is there consensus to get rid of or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And you're gonna add them to your notes. Okay.
So this is, Sheila, I had asked this question, and again, we talking about bonds, right?
Yes.
Why, so then why wouldn't, since we have a section here of bonds, this doesn't preclude the town if it wanted to purchase, so again, if you read what's going on across the country, some municipalities are actually purchasing gold. Why wouldn't this, I think, I remember talking about this, that there was something that could procure, but the charter doesn't stop us from, if that's what.
Yeah, that would be a John Wilcox question.
Right.
These bonds are like the town has to have a bond on me
Yeah,
if I
Okay.
royally mess up and
I see, yeah, okay,
That's not gonna-
that's not.
That's right. It's a surety bond thing.
right, got it.
So do you wanna put the wording bond and or any other financial instrument?
Right, I don't
Or
think it's clear.
something?
I wouldn't have read it as what you call it, surety.
I think it's a surety bond,
Surety
Yes,
bond.
it is.
right?
It doesn't say it, though.
Before entering on their respective duties. So before I can, the tax collector also is required to be bonded. There's
Yeah,
a few, and like the assistant town clerks work under my bond, but there are certain positions that are dictated by, maybe the treasurer,
no, it's in there, I'm sorry.
dictated by state statute have to be bonded.
All right, so it's not a financial
Right.
bond, it's
No,
a surety
it's a
bond.
surety
And
bond,
it does say, I'm
yes.
sorry, she's right, it says
Yeah,
surety,
it's
sorry.
a surety bond.
Okay,
All set, Mike?
yep, thank you, sorry.
Okay. Do you have anything else, Sheila?
I don't think so. Nope, just please. And then we have to go back to that zoning issue. I think we were gonna talk about, that's when we would invite, department head in.
All right, so we're through the document. So we have a few people that we wanted to request to come and speak with us. Is that something we want to do for next meeting? And who do we want to start with? Who do we have, Sheila?
Right now we have the finance director, and then we have the town planner regarding the zoning issues. And the town attorney has answered our questions we have presented to the town attorney's office, all of them. If you want the town attorney here to help speak about the zoning issues or the finance issues, you certainly, that would be your prerogative. I would invite them all. I don't know if you want them all on the same night.
Do you think we can get through all of it?
You want them 2 hours?
I think so.
I think so.
If that's all we're doing that night, I
Well,
believe
that's
that
what
we
I'm
could.
trying to do,
Yeah,
because I don't want
believe
them
we
to
could, because
have.
that's an hour each.
Right.
So I
Should
believe
be
we
plenty,
could.
right?
Yeah, I agree, if we can get them all on next meeting or the meeting after, that's great.
Even Chris,
Well, it'd be next meeting.
Next meeting, sorry, right?
Yeah, so if we can invite all three of them to next meeting.
All right, and I know Laura, you're out next meeting, correct?
Did you approve her absence? 'Cause I didn't.
No, she wanted to make sure I could take over the minutes for her.
I got this massive calendar, I was planning ahead.
So should we wait until the following meeting?
I don't think we can,
No,
we're
no,
tight,
okay.
everything, we
No,
have
that's
to be
right.
done at the end of
Okay.
March, right?
That's okay, because I can always do them from the video,
Can,
the recording.
can you zoom in?
Maybe, at least for the first half hour.
Right.
I have another board meeting at 7, that's my first Thursday.
Right, or I mean, at least if you can
Mhm.
watch it before the next meeting.
Yeah, 100%.
Because we're all part of getting to this point, I want to
Mhm.
all be part of the final decision, so.
Yeah, I will do everything I can.
all right. So we'll invite all three to the next
The
meeting.
3-6, yes. All three, okay. And I will put, the 3-6 is a special meeting. So I'm going to, when I draw up the agenda, I'm gonna note the sections that we want each of them to discuss. So if you all could look it over and make sure I didn't miss anything and, because it's a special meeting, we can't vote to add.
That would be Laura or Anne Marie, can double check that. Zach?
Thank you. I just had a brief question or suggestion. So when we have planning staff come in, would it be potentially beneficial, for instance, if we could get some feedback from planning staff, maybe from another community that already has this implemented?
Well, Lori has worked in other, Lori has worked in other communities. So hopefully that, plus her time here in Enfield, and then I think she lives in Suffield.
Yep.
So hopefully she's got enough knowledge about it.
There's not,
I am only aware of West Hartford. that
Yeah, so
has
there's
done
not a
this.
lot of, and I know
There's
Lori
not a
Whitman
lot.
has not worked in West Hartford.
Correct.
So I was just wondering if that could potentially be beneficial.
I'd say,
I think it couldn't hurt if there's time pending and anything like I can make that phone call.
I had briefly just called the town clerk's office there, and they said their council acts as the zoning approval for zoning relief changes to regs or maps. So they still have, they don't handle every application for
I
zoning.
It's when
think
there's
if
a
we set the
change.
state
Yeah.
statute, I don't think we can.
Yeah,
So-
that's the good point.
So, but I'll freely admit zoning is not my forte. I'm not really knowledgeable with it.
and I just had a conversation with somebody, and I don't remember who said because planning and zoning is going through a complete reg change, that the council should have a say, because the state of Connecticut makes the council and zoning agree, like ADUs and marijuana. It was a 2-part vote. So when planning and zoning makes the regulation changes, I think the council should be aware of what's going on, because you really could cripple a municipality if zoning went rogue on you. So that is something I really want to talk about, I wish I remember who I talked to about that, but anyway, so, I mean, obviously, planning and zoning is not gonna like it, but ultimately, they're appointed and we're elected, so it's no different than the Board of Ed's budget coming to the council, so. You good with that too, Mike?
Yeah, it's interesting. Why do we do the 824 referral, right? So we give the courtesy even though we don't need their sign off. And we give them a courtesy of the CIP, again, we don't need their sign off. So I agree, why would more than a courtesy, certainly regs, like similar to what we did in the redistricting with the register of voters, right? I would actually even suggest you to go all the way to a referendum, in my opinion, even beyond because you remember we had this discussion on the redistricting, and I agree it should go to the voter because it's so political. And it's a similar idea with zoning regs. I mean, maybe not to the extent of voting districts, but I agree with you. You can certainly dramatically change a neighborhood with one fell swoop, and no one has a say in it. Which again,
Well, I think they have to have a public hearing.
but I'd rather actually go right because I hate to say it, I agree with you. Public hearing is important. However, such dramatic change to your town. If we have to we're talking about going to referendum on things, we were talking about on a $500,000 project, yet here we are redistricting or rezoning the town.
Yeah.
That's a big change. I agree with you. That's something we should look at and maybe find a way of, maybe start with a council authority, but I'd like to see if allowable going farther, that it goes to a referendum. But I'm just saying, if it's not.
No, you're not wrong, Mike, because there was a larger development that I was involved in years ago.
Yeah.
Phase 1 passed, or they voted down, and they lost in court, so we were able to build. So they turned around and changed the zoning on phase 2. And, I mean, totally expanded the scope of this project and the cost. Well, they shouldn't be able to do that. We followed the regulations.
Right.
And so I think we can discuss it with Lori, but I do believe at least it should also be a second body overseeing it.
Yeah.
Now, I do know on if you were to come in for a zone change for your house, one spot zoning is illegal. So say you wanted to make your house a commercial business, it's illegal, shouldn't be done. The second one would be, even if it abuts something, you do have to have a public meeting where people from the neighborhood are all noticed, and planning and zoning has all the streets around, and you have to mail them all, and then, we rented a school and did that, and then it can move forward. Then planning and zoning has the public hearing. So they have a bunch of steps, but ultimately, none of that means anything if planning and zoning says, okay, so what?
Right.
And it's no different than the council, but, we have a body that sees over us, and that's the electors.
So I like this idea, and I'm looking at it from two different perspectives. One, I'm looking at it from having the voters having a say, but what I'm also wondering is potentially, and I remember this from out west, is also a developer, if they felt they wanted to bring a zone change to the voters, that they had that authority as well. So is that something that other towns in Connecticut?
That
have
I've never
statute
heard
have the
of.
ability to
That's
do?
really Lori or, and I don't know, I know Maria, our old previous attorney assistant, had a lot of land use experience. I don't know if Mark, I can talk to him and see if he has knowledge. I don't know if it would behoove the town to invite another attorney that does a lot of land use law. I mean, we all know one. I don't know, it's really not my
Right.
area of expertise at all, honestly.
Something like that, you're kind of circumventing the regulations, because now you're getting into, it's not in my backyard, I don't care,
Right.
but it's in his solar fields. I mean, there's a
Yeah,
perfect
right,
example. And, this keeps it, maybe when a developer comes in and does want to do a zone change, which is really a change in the regulation, maybe that should also have to be seconded by the council. I mean, that kind of would be a double. And if they both say no, well, then
Right.
there's a problem.
To your point earlier, people don't realize how dangerous the ADU language that came from the state, that by the time both council and the planning and zoning agreed, Because you're exactly right. Your neighbor could have said, you know what, the state doesn't need me to have a special use permit. I don't need to have a public hearing. I want to put an Airbnb in my backyard. Too bad. The language, the way the state is dictating to the municipalities, including solar fields, as we know, I agree, we need to relook at where the council, there is another check, I hate to keep using the term check and balance, but it really should be, because the state is impeding on our local authority constantly. And people don't realize, to your point, the ADU, how dangerous it could have been to a neighborhood. The language that was in there, the state passed. And, at the very least now, you can at least call a public hearing.
Right.
Yep.
And I'll go a little farther, 1,000%, but the word neighborhood would be gone.
Correct, no, fair.
Because you could put up to 1,000 square feet on a
Yeah.
quarter-acre lot.
Yeah.
And like I just said about planning and zoning, forcing an R44 1 acre to an R88 2 acres.
Right.
But then anybody without zoning approval could put a house right next to theirs and, no zoning approval whatsoever. So again, I think it's checks and balances. I don't know that I would go as far to the voter because again, now you're getting into how many times are we gonna have to have a special election? Because planning and zoning probably gets 6 a year where people come in and try to do some sort of spot zoning.
And to that point, Mr. Mayor, and I was there back when it was rented over there at the facility, zoning is an incredibly complex process. And I just remember the facts being stated at one of those meetings and residents just disregarding the law when it came to their understanding of those processes.
Right,
Not
and
to
there's
disregard
now,
but
classes that are required too.
at least to have some check and balance and move this to the
No, I agree.
elected officials, I think is a good step.
I agree.
Talking about Win Stanley?
When the proposal for Brainerd Park came in,
Oh.
and there was all those residents
Mhm.
there was developers, engineers, and attorneys there to state information, and residents were just choosing to ignore the information. And I don't want to use that as a case study for, well, that's going to happen every time, but I do think that the council will have the resources it needs at its disposal at all time to make an informed decision. And they're elected, so they're accountable to those
Hopefully.
decisions.
And that's why over the years, we're trying to shift, at least since I've been on the council, more of, it's Anne Marie's husband. He knows nothing about planning and zoning, but because we like Anne Marie, we're gonna put her husband on. And that's when the town gets in trouble, because now it's, well, that's my opinion. But the regulations, your opinion doesn't matter whether you like it or not. If you don't like the regulation, change it. But until it's changed,
You don't have a
and
chance.
that's where that had to stop. And I think we're doing, heading very much in the right direction. I think other than my wife being chair of wetlands, because if I didn't say that, I'd be a dead man. I think our current wetlands commission is phenomenal.
Me too.
I mean, they are willing to listen and they're willing to work with people, but they're not gonna get pushed around. And they have the best interest of our community at heart. And I think that's what we need to do. And, planning and zoning's getting there, but wetlands, boy, they have done a phenomenal job over the years of making changes. Because Enfield didn't have a good reputation for many, many years, so. All right, so we'll discuss that with Lori. So we've got Lori and Tom
We have
and
Lori.
John.
And Tom and John, yes.
And they know which areas of.
I will let them know.
So that they're prepared.
Specifically, right. I would imagine Tom will be part of all of the discussions.
Mhm.
I think so,
And
yeah.
then John and Lori just on their sections.
All right. Everybody's good with that?
Could I bring up one other thing?
Absolutely.
So as we've been, voting down, deciding to remove suggestions, and then we have a consensus, I have been updating our charter. But I want to know at what point do you all want to view this update? Because it will be my basis for drafting the draft that has to go to the council. And I've got to have that all ready before we set a public hearing date, because we still need to have another public hearing before sending the draft to council.
So you're gonna do like a red line version
I've
of
been
it?
doing a red line as we go. Each time I come in from the meeting, I kind of update the charter if I have an answer, except for the town attorney ones we were waiting for. But, I want to make sure that I didn't misunderstand anything. I want everyone to look at it and agree that, yes, this is an accurate red line version.
So I think after next meeting, we should have, with the advice of the experts, I think we'll be through the document. So I would say right after that meeting, you can go ahead and correct that.
Okay.
And then maybe at the end of that meeting, we can set a public hearing date. And you can determine the timeline
Okay,
you're gonna need for that.
okay.
Sure.
So on the 6th, when we're having officials come in, do we want to be able to make decisions at that time
Just
regarding what
right,
they?
exactly what I was thinking.
Or did we want to reserve the
13th
the
for that
13th and at
discussion.
the end of that meeting?
The goal would be, when they're sitting here, we should have enough information from them
Okay.
to be able to make the decision. Because then Sheila needs time to get the documents together.
And publish the public hearing.
Right. So, I mean, that's the goal, Zach. But they could be opening up a whole different world to us that we're gonna need more time. So,
Because, yeah, right, because if we,
Then we have two after that.
right, after the public hearing, they may have input that you all want to reconsider some of the items or talk more about certain items. So you'll need another meeting to get ready before it goes
to
to
council.
the council, and like, we have our early, our April
What do
deadline.
we say for the
so-
13th for you, at least tentatively? So even if it's not the week after, at least you're,
Right,
give
right,
you
Right.
20th the latest, 13th preferable. Right, but you're right, unless something comes out.
you mean as far as setting the public hearing?
Or whatever, you need your red line
Your red
version. I
line
think we can
version.
set a
Oh, yeah,
public
the red
hearing
line, yeah,
anytime, right? We
okay.
can do it tonight if we
Yes.
want to do, right?
Yeah, I don't have it printed for
Right.
everyone, the red lines, but.
So the red line charter
Mhm,
is great. I like it.
mhm.
But the concern that I'm asking you guys is, we have a list of things that we went through. And I'm gonna say 50% of them didn't cut mustard. They're gone.
Mhm.
How is the public going to be able to comment?
I have an updated of my chart thing that has like, anything that passed, I have in green and I say consensus. They're rudimentary notes, to be honest. Anything that didn't pass, I have, crossed out in red and I said, voted down and the date it was voted down. I have no problem publishing that. I just didn't want to publish it until you all agree that this is what we agreed on.
Yeah.
I have no problem with the public seeing that. It's part of the documents.
Right.
But right now, it's my notes until you all agree that my notes are accurate.
Right. And just my concern is council members and the public or whoever put those suggestions
Right.
up. And just not for the public to be able to comment on seeing any of them. I
So
think they
this
should be able to-
original, before any notes were made, is part of the first meeting's minutes. Like agenda packet. So if someone were to look at that agenda, they could see this whole chart before you made any decisions.
Right, they should see the chart with our decisions, so they know how we acted, and then they would have a right to say, well, I disagree, I think it should be in there. Like the person who came up with the idea.
Right.
And that way, because that was the body of our job. And, everybody good with that?
So I can distribute that to you at the same time you get the redlined charter.
Yep,
Mhm, Sure.
and you're gonna put both online?
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right. What else we got?
The format of the draft. So I checked various towns. Some towns just submit a cover letter stating our timeline, what we did, the process we went through, just sort of an introductory letter, and then attached it to the red line version of the charter and let it speak for itself. Other towns went, all right, chapter 5, these are what we changed, and this is a brief explanation as to why we changed it. Next chapter. that, so I guess I want some input as to what you would like to see, because I'm assuming that I'll be the one drawing that.
So I like the format letter in the beginning you mentioned,
Mhm.
but I think that document with the notes on it,
Mhm.
once you clean up the notes, explains everything that was
Well,
done.
my notes on the document just say if it was voted up and down and when, other than, you can see what was voted up and down. It's the minutes that explain all of your,
But
this is
see,
why I think it should be, this is why I think it shouldn't.
and, go
Sorry,
ahead.
I was just gonna say, my thought is the same, like, I feel like if we wrote like a little bit of a why, that would almost be like, I get what it feels, I feel a nugget, like a little more work, considering we have this spreadsheet, and we have the minutes, and then we'd be writing a letter, like, I think, and also, some of these just like don't require more explanation, like, they're.
And you
They're
couldn't
fantasy.
possibly list
I
the
don't
whole
need-
commissions.
yes.
And so who am I to say
Yeah.
that your opinion was more important than, Rob's opinion, or,
And that's why, well, one, that's why we take
Yeah.
minutes.
Mhm.
And this is the problem. A lot of people don't want to put the work in. And realistically, somebody who wants to come to the public hearing about this, they should have watched every single one of the meetings. And that's why we made sure, and even the second meeting before the council, to put them on TV. Lou was right, and, so everybody can see it. And our first meeting was just an organizational meeting anyway, so nobody missed anything. But you have to put in the time to be informed. I mean, George comes and then he goes home and watches it again to make sure you don't fall asleep. Right, George?
He just likes us.
So I'm okay with the charter redlined and this document with the cover letter and I say
Okay.
cover letter, but that's how I feel. I think Laura said the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree, we gotta keep it simple, and it's
Yeah.
almost like, again, it's a statement of work, really what it is.
It's a statement of understanding on that.
Yeah. And you're gonna, since you date it too, then the individual can go take a look.
Go back and look at
Right,
that
and that's the
argument.
beauty, is like you're dating it, so if you wanna go take a look, go right ahead.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, next.
That's all I have.
What?
That's all I have.
Anybody else?
We need to determine the date for the public hearing?
I think we were gonna do that at the, meeting of the 13th. To review the red line and set the public hearing date.
Okay.
Because we're kind of undetermined on how the next meeting is going to go, Anne Marie, with the,
Okay. Thank you.
hopefully we can wrap it up, but.
Right, that's right, because that's a big section that John's gonna be covering because of,
And if we
that
have
budget
questions.
timeline and all of that.
Right, and if we have questions and we don't wrap it up next meeting, and you set the public hearing,
Mhm.
so.
Yeah.
I mean, by adding the meetings we added, even though we may get out of here early tonight, I'd rather be there than we don't make the timeline, so. Anybody else?
That's a special meeting next week? correct?
Next week is, yes, because it's one of the ones that we added, and so anything less than 30 days' notice is a special meeting.
I don't know the process though, so I apologize for the question, but if we anticipate to now that we think that meeting would go past our normal 8:30 scheduled time, since it's a special meeting, do we have to, should we in this meeting try to add in that we may need extra time for next?
I don't
meeting?
think that qualifies for a special meeting.
Okay, it
We
wouldn't
can-
apply, it wouldn't apply for that,
Right, we
okay,
can't change the agenda.
okay.
So you
right.
couldn't say, oh, well, the wetlands director is here, let's have her come in, we can't add that.
Right,
But, you know.
I just didn't know, since I knew we couldn't add to the agenda, I didn't know if that time slot allocation also applied and that we would not be able to, if we got in a great discussion, that we were like, sorry, we gotta go. That's why I didn't know, like, if we should set it now, that we give ourselves the
We
ability
can
to
add
add.
time.
Okay,
Right.
perfect. Just
We
wanted to
go
make
as
sure.
late
we
as
had
you
it.
want.
Good. I'm not saying that. Let me just say that again, Anne Marie and the students
No,
said, I'm not saying that.
Anne Marie's
I've actually been very quiet. I've been very quiet. I can go to midnight.
Anne Marie's like, no, we're out of here at 8:30. What do you mean we can go later?
Just want to make sure that. I don't have a hockey brawl to go see, but just asking.
March Madness starts next week. too,
Oh,
right?
okay then, there's your madness.
All right, anything else, Sheila?
No, other than the last two meetings, it was gonna be just one meeting, but then we added meetings, so the last
Lucky we
two, I am in
needed
Aruba.
Good for you.
So I will keep Kenzie abreast, but the bulk of all of the draft should be ready, the bulk of it should be done, so.
Nice.
Well,
Yeah, well
I'm
deserved.
hoping next meeting, we wrap up everything.
Okay.
And then it is just more discussion, going over the final document before the public hearing.
Nitpicking everything.
You could call in for Aruba.
No, there's no good service there, no, you
I
can't.
actually think she should have to
Right,
zoom
zoom in,
in.
right?
No good service there.
It'll be the real backdrop though, instead of one of those filters. All right, so if nobody has anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I don't want to go over all the stuff we've already gone over till everybody's in the room and we have the final document. Motion's made and seconded, all in favor? Everybody, have a great weekend. Sheila, thank you very much.
Oh,